Hey guys, tonight we will stand on a quiet stretch of Long Island shore, feeling the static electricity of a dream so vast it threatens to pull the sky down to the earth. You are a man out of time, your mind a crackling storm of alternating currents in cosmic radio waves. The air around you hums with potential, the scent of salt and pine mixing with the sharp, clean smell of ozone that always seems to cling to your clothes. Before you, a skeletal tower begins to claw its way into the clouds, a monument to a future of free, wireless energy for all mankind. It is a beautiful, electrifying, and utterly impossible idea. You are Nikola Tesla in the year 1901, and this is the magnificent, doomed beginning of your end. In a way, this is the story of the greatest project you will ever undertake, and the one that will shatter your spirit into a million pieces. It is a story of genius, betrayal, and a strange, gentle love for pigeons. It's a quiet tragedy, and if you were living it for real, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. It's always wonderful to hear where everyone is listening from. So feel free to drop your city or country and the local time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, perhaps turn on a fan for a little soft white noise, and let's settle in for tonight's journey. The ground beneath your feet feels solid, but you know it's just a temporary illusion. Everything in your mind is vibration, energy, a grand, cosmic orchestra playing a symphony you are one of the few to truly hear. You are standing in Shoreham, Long Island, a place that will soon be known to the world only because of you. The year has just turned over to a new century, and you feel that you are its rightful prophet. You've left behind the petty squabbles of the War of the Currents, the public spectacle of lighting the World's Fair, the arguments with Edison, a man you see as a tinkerer, a brute force inventor, while you are a visionary. He works with his hands in the grimy world of the real. You build entire machines, perfect and silent, in the pristine laboratory of your mind. The blueprints for the tower are seared into your memory, but you still like to unroll them on the large wooden table in your temporary side office. The paper is crisp, the ink a stark, authoritative black. They were drawn up by the firm of Stanford White, a name synonymous with Gilded Age opulence and architectural genius. You appreciate his aesthetic sensibilities, but the true beauty of the project isn't in the latticework or the elegant cupola he designed. The beauty is in the physics. The truth is in the math. Historians still debate whether you are being genuinely naive about the true costs of this venture, or if you were intentionally lowballing your primary investor. You tell yourself it is merely an issue of scaling. Once the prototype is built, the world will see. They will have to see. Your backer, the man whose money is making all this possible, is J.P. Morgan, a titan of industry with a gaze as cold and hard as the steel being forged for his railroads. You secured the initial funding from him, $150,000, a fortune by any measure by appealing to his business sense. You sold him on a world telegraphy system, a way to broadcast stock tickers, news, and personal messages across the globe instantly. It's a solid, profitable idea. It is also, in your mind, the most boring and trivial application of your technology. It's like using a lightning bolt to toast a piece of bread. Your real goal, the one you whisper only to yourself in the quiet of the night, is the wireless transmission of power. Free energy, drawn from the earth itself, broadcast to every corner of the globe. No wires, no meters, no bills. A world united and uplifted by limitless, clean power. But you know Morgan, a man who built his empire on controlling resources, would never fund a project designed to make energy free. So you keep that part of the dream tucked away, a secret humming deep in your core. It's a dangerous omission, a seed of future conflict. You walk the grounds as the first foundations are laid. The workers, local men mostly, look at you with a mixture of awe and suspicion. You are this strange, tall, immaculately dressed figure with a clipped accent and eyes that seem to be looking at something just beyond the horizon. You give them precise instructions, your calculations already done to the 17th decimal place in your head. You specify the need for a deep, complex grounding system, a series of iron pipes driven 300 feet into the earth. You explain that you are not building on the ground. You are plugging your tower into the planet. The planet is the dynamo. The workers just nod, happy for the wages. They don't need to understand the symphony. They just need to build the concert hall. Sometimes you feel a profound sense of isolation, a loneliness that even a crowd cannot penetrate. It's the curse of the visionary, to see a world no one else can, and to be unable to fully explain it. It's like trying to describe the color blue to someone born blind. You can give them analogies, the sky, the sea, but they will never truly feel it. The weight of this invisible world on your shoulders is immense, heavier than any physical burden. It is the weight of the future. The tower begins to rise, a skeleton of huge wooden beams against the pale, long island sky. It grows taller each week, a landmark visible for miles, and the local papers are starting to write stories. They call you a magician, a modern Prometheus. You tolerate the press, though you find their simplification of your work to be almost insulting. They focus on the spectacle, the magic, not the elegant science behind it. You're not a magician. You're just listening to the universe on a frequency no one else is tuned into yet. The structure itself is a marvel of engineering, a tapering octagonal pyramid of wood designed to support the massive terminal at its peak. You've forbidden the use of any iron or steel fastenings in the tower itself, much to the confusion of the builders. Every connection is made with wooden dowels and pegs, meticulously fitted. You explain that a large metallic mass in the structure would interfere with the delicate oscillations of energy. You are building a massive tuning fork, and it cannot have any discordant notes. Inside the brick laboratory at the base of the tower, your real work is underway. It's a cavernous space filled with machinery of your own design. Huge oscillators, massive capacitors, and coils of copper wire as thick as a man's arm. The air thrums with a latent power that makes the hair on your arms stand up. You spend your days and nights here, often sleeping on a small cot in the corner, your dreams filled with swirling currents and mathematical equations. This is your sanctuary, your temple. You feel more at home here among the hum of your machines than you do in any gilded New York ballroom. It is a well-known historical fact that the tower was designed to reach a height of 187 feet. What's less known, a truly weird and wonderful detail, is that the hemispherical dome at the top, the main transmitting element, was to be a structure of 55 tons of steel, yet it contained no internal structural supports. It was designed as a pure, uninterrupted conductive surface, a massive metallic mushroom cap designed to spray electrons into the atmosphere. It was less a piece of architecture and more a piece of industrial sculpture, an antenna of planetary scale. But even as the tower climbs higher, a shadow begins to stretch from Manhattan. The initial $150,000 from Morgan is almost gone. The materials are more expensive than you projected, the labor more intensive. You write polite, carefully worded letters to Morgan, explaining the unforeseen but necessary overages. You detail the incredible progress, the world-changing potential just within reach. You assure him that his investment will be returned 1,000-fold. The replies that come back are increasingly terse, delivered by assistants. Morgan is a busy man. He is orchestrating the merger of Carnegie Steel and Federal Steel to create the behemoth U Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in history. Your project, which seemed so vital just months ago, is starting to feel like a distraction to him, a rich man's hobby. Asking a Gilded Age robber baron for more money after you. They already spent the initial investment is a bit like trying to take a half-eaten gazelle away from a lion. You might get it, but you're probably going to lose an arm. You try to generate a buzz to attract other investors. You conduct small-scale demonstrations for the press, lighting up vacuum tubes from a distance without wires, creating man-made lightning that rips across your laboratory with a deafening crack. The reporters are impressed, but they write about it as a novelty, a fantastic sideshow. They don't grasp the commercial implications. Or rather, they grasp the wrong ones. Rumors begin to spread among the locals. Some say you are building a weapon to control the weather. Others whisper that you are trying to communicate with Mars. You find the Mars rumor particularly irritating, not because it's outlandish, but because you believe it's entirely possible, just not the primary goal of this particular project. The financial strain is beginning to show on you. You become thinner, your already sharp features more pronounced. You obsess over every detail, every expenditure, trying to stretch each dollar. Your fastidious nature, once a point of pride, becomes a source of torment. You demand the workers wash their hands before touching your sensitive equipment. You calculate the cubic volume of your meals to ensure optimal efficiency. This obsessive behavior, which would later become a hallmark of your public persona, is forged here in the crucible of Wardenclyffe's financial crisis. Historians debate the exact moment J.P. Morgan truly decided to pull the plug. Was it your escalating costs and increasingly grandiose letters? Or was it an event, still a few months away, that would happen across the Atlantic and change the world of communication forever, making your grand vision seem obsolete before it was even completed? You can feel his patience wearing thin, a cold front moving in from the west. The hum of the machinery in your lab is now joined by a different hum, a low thrum of anxiety deep in your gut. You are in a race against time, and your opponent is not a rival inventor, but the skepticism of the man who holds the purse strings. The date is December 12, 1901. You are in your lab, poring over schematics for a new type of oscillator, when the news arrives. It comes via the very telegraph system your invention is meant to supplant, a clattering, old-fashioned wire. A young assistant brings you the dispatch, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, as if he's not sure how you'll react. You smooth out the flimsy paper. The words are stark. Guglielmo Marconi, your Italian rival, claims to have successfully transmitted a wireless signal across the Atlantic Ocean, from Poldhu, Cornwall, to St. John's, Newfoundland, a distance of over 2,000 miles. He transmitted a single letter, repeated over and over. The letter S in Morse code. ... A faint, almost imperceptible whisper carried on the radio waves of the earth. You read the dispatch again. Then a third time. Your first reaction is not panic, but professional skepticism. Contempt, even. You believe it to be impossible. You are the world's foremost expert on radio waves, and you know that they travel in straight lines. The curvature of the earth would prevent a signal from traveling that far. It must have been a fluke, atmospheric noise. A publicity stunt. You publicly voice your doubts, stating that Marconi is likely misinterpreting solar or atmospheric phenomena. It's a rare misstep for you, a moment where your pride and your own theories blind you to the achievements of another. It is a bit like the inventor of the horse-drawn carriage, declaring that a sputtering early automobile must just be a very noisy horse. The historical fact is that Marconi did indeed transmit the letter S across the ocean, a feat that electrified the world and the financial markets. The weird, less-known tidbit is that there's still a sliver of academic debate about that first transmission. The receiving equipment was primitive, and some modern analysis suggests that what Marconi's team heard could very well have been atmospheric crackle that they, caught up in the excitement, wanted to be a signal. But in history, perception is reality. The world believed it, and that's all that mattered. Especially to one man, J.P. Morgan. For Morgan, Marconi's success is a revelation. It is simple. It is direct. It is, most importantly, a business model he can understand. Point A to point B, one sender, one receiver. You can charge for every single message. It's the telegraph, but without the colossal expense of laying a cable across the ocean floor. It is a license to print money. And then he looks at your project. You, with your talk of broadcasting to everyone, everywhere, all at once. You, with your hints of sending not just messages, but raw, untamed power. How do you put a meter on that? How do you bill for energy that is as free as the air? In that moment, your grand utopian vision is refrained in his ruthlessly practical mind. It's not a business. It's a charity, a global public utility. And J.P. Morgan is not in the business of charity. The flow of money from his office, which had already slowed to a trickle, stops completely. Your letters now go unanswered. You are, in modern parlance, being ghosted by the world's most powerful billionaire. The silence is more damning than any refusal. It is a cold, hard financial fact. The construction on the tower sputters to a halt. The workers are sent home, their wages unpaid. The great wooden skeleton on the Long Island shore stands unfinished, a monument to a half-realized dream. You are left alone in your magnificent laboratory, surrounded by the finest electrical equipment the world has ever seen, all of it silent. The hum is gone. The silence is deafening, a physical presence in the room. It's the sound of failure. You pace the floor of your lab, the grand space now feeling like a tomb. You feel a fury, a righteous anger at Morgan's lack of vision, his betrayal. You gave him the key to a new world, and he used it to lock the door. Historians debate whether Morgan A's move was a true betrayal or simply a pragmatic business decision. After all, you had not been entirely forthcoming about your ultimate goals, and Marconi had delivered a tangible, marketable result while you were still building your infrastructure. But in your heart, it feels like the deepest treachery. He didn't just defund a project, he suffocated a future. You are a man who deals in absolutes, in the elegant certainties of physics. The messy, irrational world of human greed and fear is a variable you never properly accounted for. And now, that variable has brought your grand equation to a grinding, heartbreaking halt. The unfinished tower outside your window seems to mock you, its wooden arms reaching for a sky that is now, once again, out of reach. The years immediately following the Wardenclyffe shutdown are a slow, grinding descent for you. The dream is not dead. Not yet, but it is on life support, and you are the only doctor in a hospital with no electricity. You spend the first few years, from roughly 1905 to 1908, in a desperate, frantic attempt to find new funding. You are no longer the celebrated visionary of the 1890s. The press, which once lauded you as a magician, now paints you as a charlatan, a dreamer whose grandest project ended in a pile of unpaid bills. You are a genius, yes, but a commercially unviable one. You are a cautionary tale whispered in the boardrooms of Wall Street. Investing in Tesla is now seen as financial suicide. You write letters. So many letters. To Henry Clay Frick, to Thomas Fortune Ryan, to John Jacob Astor IV. You fill pages with elegant prose and unimpeachable physics, explaining the science, outlining the potential for unimaginable profits. You are a terrible salesman. You can't help but talk about the science, the beauty of the resonant frequencies, the grandeur of the planetary system. The industrialists you're writing to don't care about planetary resonance. They care about return on investment. It's like trying to sell a state-of-the-art gaming PC to someone who just wants a toaster. You keep describing the graphics card, and they keep asking if it makes good sourdough. The rejections pile up on your desk, a mountain of polite, dismissive stationery. John Jacob Astor shows some interest, and for a brief, flickering moment, you feel a spark of hope. But that hope sinks, quite literally, in April of 1912, when Astor goes down with the Titanic. It seems even fate is conspiring against you. Your magnificent lab at Wardenclyffe, once a humming temple of the future, is now a source of deep pain. You can't afford to maintain it. You can't even afford the property taxes. You take out a second mortgage on the land just to keep your creditors at bay, to buy yourself a little more time. The beautiful equipment inside, custom-blown glass tubes and massive copper coils, gathers a fine layer of dust. The silence is a constant accusation. The tower stands outside, a stark, decaying monument. The wooden beams are weathering, turning a silvery gray. Birds nest in its upper reaches. It is a landmark of failure, visible to every ship that passes through Long Island Sound. You avoid looking at it, but you can feel its presence, a phantom limb that aches with a dream that will not die. During this time, your eccentricities, once seen as the charming quirks of a genius, begin to calcify into something more troubling. Your obsession with cleanliness intensifies. You develop a phobia of germs, known today as mysophobia. You avoid shaking hands. You use dozens of napkins at every meal, polishing your silverware to a mirror shine before using it. You have a fixation on the number 3 or numbers divisible by 3. You will only stay in hotel rooms with a number divisible by 3. You walk around a block 3 times before entering a building. It is a common historical fact that Tesla had what we would now likely diagnose as severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. A lesser-known, and rather poignant, detail is that these rituals seem to provide a sense of order in a life that was spiraling into financial and professional chaos. When you can't control the flow of capital from Wall Street, you can at least control the number of times you circle a building. It is a desperate grasp for certainty in an uncertain world. You are still capable of brilliant invention. You patent a revolutionary new type of bladeless turbine, an elegant design that uses boundary layer adhesion instead of blades to move fluid. It is, by all accounts, a work of genius, far more efficient than conventional turbines. But you have no capital to develop it, to build a factory. You are a king with a magnificent kingdom, but no subjects, no army, and no treasury. You try to sell the patent, but your reputation precedes you. You are the man who burned J.P. Morgan. No one wants to touch it. Historians debate whether your inability to commercialize inventions, like the turbine, was due to your damaged reputation or your own perfectionism. You are often unwilling to release a product that was anything less than 100% perfect in your own mind, an impossible standard in the world of commercial engineering. You are trying to sell a Stradivarius to people who just needed a fiddle, and you refuse to compromise on the varnish. The world, it seems, has moved on. The 20th century, which you were so sure belonged to you, is chugging along on messy, inefficient, but profitable technologies. And you are being left behind, a lonely figure polishing his silverware in the lengthening shadow of your beautiful, useless tower. By 1915, the situation at Wardenclyffe has become untenable. The property is a financial black hole, and your creditors are circling. You've run out of delays, out of mortgages, out of hope. The foreclosure proceedings begin. The deed to the land, the laboratory, and the tower is signed over to the proprietor of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, George Balt. To settle a massive unpaid hotel bill of over $20,000, an astronomical sum at the time, equivalent to over $500,000 today. The irony is crushing. Your grand vision for global power sacrificed to pay for fancy dinners and a hotel room. It's a bitter pill to swallow. You, the man who wanted to give the world free energy, can't even pay his own rent. You never set foot on the property again. The memory is too painful. You leave behind your magnificent laboratory, filled with the custom-built tools of your genius. Oscillators, transformers, and countless delicate instruments, all lost to your creditors. It is a fire sale of a brilliant mind. The lab is gutted, the equipment sold for scrap. The heart of Wardenclyffe is ripped out and melted down for pennies on the dollar. But the tower, the great wooden and steel sentinel, remains. It has no practical value to anyone but you. It is too big to move, too strange to repurpose. So it just stands there, a 187-foot-tall tombstone for a dead dream, its ownership now in the hands of a hotelier. Then, in 1917, 2 years after you lose the property, America enters the First World War. A new kind of paranoia grips the country, the fear of German spies. And there, on the coast of Long Island, is a massive, mysterious tower, built by a strange man with a foreign accent, capable of, well, no one is quite sure what it's capable of. That's the problem. Rumors, which had always swirled around the tower, now take on a darker, more jingoistic tone. The U.S. government fears that German submarines lurking offshore could be using the tower as a landmark for navigation. Or worse, that German spies could be using it to transmit intelligence back to the fatherland. It's a classic example of wartime hysteria. There is zero evidence for any of this. You are a patriotic American citizen, but fear is not rational. The fact that the tower was financed by J.P. Morgan and designed by Stanford White is conveniently forgotten. All they see is a potential threat. The decision is made. The tower is a hazard to national security. It must come down. A demolition company is hired. On July 4th, 1917, Independence Day, a cruel twist of the knife, they begin the work of destroying your masterpiece. It is a well-known historical fact that Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished in 1917. The strange and lesser-known detail is how difficult it was to destroy. Your construction was too good. The demolition crew first tried to physically pull it down, but the wooden structure, with its interlocking pegs and robust design, refused to budge. They were forced to use dynamite. The first few blasts only succeeded in damaging the base, leaving the tower leaning precariously, like a wounded giant. It took several more controlled explosions over a period of days to finally bring it down. Onlookers said it fell with a slow, grinding roar, a reluctant surrender. It fought its own destruction to the very end. The salvage value of the scrap metal and wood barely covered the costs of the demolition. You are in New York City when you hear the news. You read it in the paper. There are no dramatic scenes, no tearful visits to the site. You simply absorb the information, a final, definitive period at the end of a long, painful chapter. You feel a strange sense of not relief, but resignation. A quiet, hollow emptiness. The physical manifestation of your greatest failure is now gone. The ghost has been exorcised, but the haunting remains within you. Historians debate your true feelings at this moment. Did you feel a sense of closure, or was it the ultimate defeat? Outwardly, you maintain a dignified silence, a stoic facade. But inwardly, something breaks. The last flickering ember of the dream of wireless world power is extinguished, leaving only the cold ash of memory. You are now officially a man of the past. The future you designed will never be built. The world will get its wireless communication from Marconi and its power from Edison's grimy, inefficient grid. And you, Nikola Tesla, are left with nothing but your patents, your pride, and a growing number of phobias. The world needed a prophet, and you were ready, but they settled for a telegraph operator instead. With Wardenclyffe reduced to rubble and scrap, your life enters a new, more sedentary phase. The grand public demonstrations and ambitious construction projects are over. Your arena of action shrinks from the world stage to the confines of a New York City hotel room. You move from one hotel to another, the Waldorf Astoria, the St. Regis, the Hotel Governor Clinton, always one step ahead of your creditors, leaving a trail of unpaid bills in your wake. Your fame ensures you can always get a room. Your reputation for not paying ensures you can never stay for long. Finally, in 1934, you settle in for the last decade of your life at the Hotel New Yorker. It will be your final home, your office, and your sanctuary. You take a suite on the 33rd floor, a number divisible by 3, of course. Room 3327. From your window, you have a commanding view of the city, a skyline you helped to power, a world that is running on your alternating current patterns. Your daily routine becomes precise and unvarying, a series of rituals designed to keep the chaos of the world at bay. You work for hours, filling notebooks with new theories, calculations for particle beam weapons, and ideas for harnessing cosmic energy. You are still a fountain of genius, but the fountain is now hidden away in a private courtyard. You rarely meet with anyone. Your human contact shrinks to the hotel staff, whom you communicate with through precise, often bizarre, instructions. You have your meals delivered to your room, but only after the waiter has left them outside the door. You never want to see anyone handle your food. It's like being the world's most brilliant and most demanding ghost in the machine. A ghost who still runs up a very real room service bill. It's during this period that you're famous and often misunderstood. Relationship with pigeons begins. It starts simply. You begin to take daily walks to the places where pigeons gather. Bryant Park, the steps of St. Patrick's Cathedral, the New York Public Library. At first, you just watch them. You, the man who thinks in planetary terms, become fascinated by these common city birds. You admire their resilience, their intelligence. You see in them a kind of simple, honest perfection that you find lacking in humanity. Soon, you start bringing bags of seed, bought with money you can scarcely afford. You become a familiar sight. The tall, gaunt, elegantly dressed old man, standing silently as a feathered cloud descends around him. The pigeons are not afraid of you. They land on your shoulders, your head, your outstretched arms. It is a strange and gentle tableau against the harsh backdrop of the city. The historical fact is that Nikola Tesla fed and cared for pigeons in his later years. The weird and deeply poignant detail is the extent of this devotion. You don't just feed the pigeons in the park. You begin to bring injured or sick birds back to your hotel room. The maids at the Hotel New Yorker would discover pigeons recuperating in your suite, nestled in specially constructed boxes, fed a custom mix of grains you ordered. You spent thousands of dollars money you owed to the hotel on caring for. These birds, it was an open secret. The hotel management, a mix of annoyed and awed by their famous penniless resident, mostly looked the other way. It was better than finding him trying to build a death ray in the bathtub, I suppose. But there is one pigeon, a specific one, that becomes the center of your world. She is a pure white bird, a stark contrast to the gray and iridescent flock. You believe she is different, special. You claim she can find you anywhere, that she is a constant companion. You begin to spend more time with this one bird than with any human being. You talk to her. You believe she understands you. This is where your affection tips over into something that outsiders see as a profound eccentricity, a sign of a mind unmoored from reality. Historians debate whether this pigeon obsession was a symptom of loneliness and mental decline, or a conscious, if unconventional, choice to find companionship in a world that had repeatedly disappointed you. Was it a retreat from a cruel human world into a simpler, more loyal one? Or was it something more? You yourself would later make a statement about this white pigeon that is so strange, so beautiful, and so heartbreaking that it would cement your legend as the mad genius in the hotel tower. A statement about love, light, and understanding that went far beyond the simple act of feeding a bird in the park. For now, she is just your friend, your one true, feathered confidant in a city of 8 million souls. Your relationship with the white pigeon deepens into a profound and all-consuming bond. She is not just a pet. She is, in your mind, an entity of immense significance. You leave the window of your suite at the Hotel New Yorker open so she can come and go as she pleases. She often sits on your desk as you work, a silent, white presence amidst the clutter of your notebooks and calculations. You have conversations with her, one-sided to any observer, but to you, they are dialogues of perfect understanding. You feel she listens without judgment, her dark, intelligent eyes fixed on you. In a world that has stolen your laboratory, demolished your tower, and dismissed your genius, this small creature offers you something invaluable: unconditional acceptance. You claim, in conversations with the few journalists or acquaintances you still tolerate, that this pigeon is no ordinary bird. You speak of her with a reverence usually reserved for a deity or a soulmate. You describe how she would find you, no matter where you were in the city. How she was, in essence, a kindred spirit. This is the period where the line between your scientific mind and your mystical inclinations becomes irrevocably blurred. You, the man of alternating currents and resonant frequencies, start to speak in a language of cosmic connection and spiritual illumination, all centered on this one small bird. It's a bit like finding out that Isaac Newton spent his later years convinced his apple was giving him stock tips. It's a jarring but deeply human turn. The story you tell is this: one night, as you are lying in your bed, sick and in the dark, the white pigeon flies in through the open window. But she is not just a bird anymore. You claim that brilliant, blindingly white beams of light are shooting from her eyes. Two powerful, intense rays. You describe it as a light more powerful than any you had ever generated in your laboratories. A light that filled the room and your mind. It is a moment of pure, terrifying, beautiful epiphany. You say that in that moment, you knew she had come to tell you she was dying. And in that same moment, you understood that your life's work was complete. As long as you had her, you had a purpose. With her gone, your purpose was fulfilled. The light faded, and the bird died in your hands. This is the event that defines your final years. The death of the white pigeon is, for you, a turning point as significant as the loss of Wardenclyffe. It is a common historical fact that you told this story of the pigeon and the light to your biographer, John J. O'Neill. The weird and intensely debated part of this is what you actually meant. What did you see that night? Was it a hallucination brought on by illness and loneliness? A waking dream? Or was it a metaphor, your poetic, scientific mind trying to process love, loss, and the end of your own creative drive? You famously told O'Neill, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life." It is one of the most heartbreaking and bizarre confessions in the history of science. Historians still debate the meaning of this profound attachment. Was it a simple case of transference, pouring all your thwarted ambition and affection into a non-human object that couldn't betray you? Or was it something deeper? You, who saw the universe as a symphony of vibrations, may have genuinely believed you had found a creature perfectly in tune with your own frequency. After the pigeon's death, a change comes over you. A light in your own eyes seems to go out. The frantic energy that drove you for decades subsides into a quiet, weary resignation. You continue your daily routines, your walks, your calculations, but the fire is gone. You have told the world that your work is finished. Now, all that is left is to wait. You continue to feed the other pigeons, of course. You see it as your duty. You are the shepherd of the flock. But your queen is gone, and the kingdom feels empty. You are a king in exile, not from a country, but from your own sense of purpose, living out your last years on the 33rd floor, surrounded by the ghosts of dead currents and the memory of a brilliant white light. The 1930s are a decade of deep paradox for you. On one hand, you are living in near poverty, a recluse in a hotel room, your great projects in ruins. On the other hand, Your reputation begins a slow, strange resurrection. You become a kind of scientific oracle, a mysterious figure the press dusts off once a year for a grand pronouncement. On your birthday, reporters are granted a rare audience. You hold court in the grand ballroom of the Hotel New Yorker, dressed impeccably in your formal wear, looking every bit the elder statesman of science. You use these annual conferences to announce your latest theoretical inventions, each more fantastic than the last dot. You speak of a peace ray, or death ray, a particle beam weapon you call teleforce. You claim it could shoot down fleets of airplanes from 250 miles away, creating a Chinese wall of force around a country that would make it invincible to attack. You offer this invention to the United States government and later to other allied nations as a way to end all war. You genuinely believe that the only way to prevent war is to make its consequences so terrifyingly absolute that no one would dare start one. It's the same logic that would later lead to the doctrine of mutually assured destruction in the nuclear age. You are, once again, decades ahead of your time. Government agencies, including the FBI, take a keen interest. They listen politely, take notes, and ultimately classify you as a brilliant but likely impractical mind. They are intrigued, but they never give you the funding to build it. They don't know if you're a genius or a crank, and they're not willing to bet the defense budget on it. You also announce theories on interplanetary communication, methods for photographing thoughts, and ways to harness cosmic rays as an energy source. The press loves it. Your pronouncements make for sensational headlines. Tesla's death ray can destroy 10,000 planes. Famous scientists to photograph the mind. It's great copy, a welcome distraction from the grim realities of the Great Depression. You become a fixture of popular culture, the archetypal mad scientist, a figure of both awe and ridicule. It is a well-known fact that you made these annual birthday announcements. A weird, less-known tidbit is that you finance these lavish press conferences yourself, using funds from a modest pension you received from the Yugoslavian government, a gesture of respect from your homeland. You would spend a significant portion of your small income on these events, ensuring the finest food and drink for the reporters you both courted and disdained. It was your one day a year to feel like the king of science again. But behind the facade of the confident super inventor, your personal life is one of increasing isolation and physical decline. You are old, you are frail. The long walks to the park to feed the pigeons become more difficult. Your body, which you always treated like a finely tuned machine, is beginning to fail. You eat sparingly, a diet that consists mostly of milk, honey, and vegetable juices, convinced this is the key to longevity. You are a living skeleton, animated by sheer force of will and the endless calculations spooling through your brain. Historians debate how much of your later work was based on solid scientific principles versus pure speculation. Were the blueprints for the death ray that were found in your papers after your death viable schematics? Or were they the theoretical musings of a mind untethered from the constraints of practical engineering? Some modern physicists have looked at your notes and found them surprisingly prescient, hinting at technologies like particle accelerators and charged particle beams. Others see them as brilliant but fundamentally flawed thought experiments. The truth, as with so much of your life, is likely somewhere in the middle. You were laying the theoretical groundwork for a future you would never see, drawing maps of a country no one else had the imagination to even conceive of. You are longer building towers of wood and steel. You are building them out of pure thought. And in the lonely quiet of room 3327, those towers reach all the way to the stars. You may have lost the world, but you still believe you hold the universe in your mind. The reporters leave your party, full of free gin and wild stories, and you retreat back to your silence, the faint hum of the city a poor substitute for the crackling energy of your lost laboratory. As the world marches inexorably toward a second global conflict, your ideas about warfare and energy take on a new urgency, at least in your own mind. You are an old man now, in your early 80s, but your intellect remains a razor. You watch the rise of fascism in Europe with a mixture of scientific detachment and deep dismay. Your proposed peace ray, the Teleforce weapon, becomes your great obsession of this final period. You believe with every fiber of your being that you hold the key to global security. You redouble your efforts to offer it to the world. Write letters, a flurry of them, to the leaders of the Allied nations. You write to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, to the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, and later to Winston Churchill. You even write to the Soviet Union, offering your ultimate defensive weapon in exchange for a research facility and funding. Your proposals are a strange mix of precise technical detail and grandiose, almost messianic claims. You are offering salvation through physics. The responses are, for the most part, polite but non-committal. Government files from the era, now declassified, show that you were being monitored. The FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, had a thick file on you. They were deeply suspicious of your foreign connections and your talk of superweapons. They saw you as a potential asset, but also a significant security risk. What if you decided to sell your secrets to the wrong people? The irony is that you were desperately trying to give them away to the right people. You just wanted someone to listen, to believe, to build. It's a common historical fact that Tesla worked on a directed energy weapon concept. A strange and fascinating side story is your brief and bizarre interaction with the fledgling RCA Corporation. You had a long-running feud with them, viewing them as part of the Marconi legacy that had helped ruin you. Yet you approached them with a proposal. An engineer from RCA, a man named George Clark, visited you at the Hotel New Yorker. You spent hours describing your particle beam weapon. Clark, an expert in radio, was skeptical but fascinated. He later wrote in his diaries that being in your presence was like visiting a man from another planet. He felt you were either a supreme genius or magnificently crazy, and he couldn't for the life of him decide which. The meeting went nowhere. RCA was in the business of radios and phonographs, not planetary defense systems. It was another dead end. Your financial situation is more precarious than ever. The pension from Yugoslavia is your only steady income, and it's barely enough to cover your modest needs and your extravagant birdseed budget. The Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company, the company that had bought your AC patents decades ago and built an empire on them, hears of your plight. In a gesture of corporate goodwill and perhaps a tinge of guilt, they agree to pay your rent at the Hotel New Yorker and provide a small consulting fee of $125 per month. It saves you from eviction, but it is a bitter charity. You are the man whose inventions made Westinghouse a global power, and now they are giving you pocket money to live out your final days. You accept it with quiet dignity, but the humiliation stings. It's like the architect of St. Peter's Basilica being given a cot in the broom closet and a free bowl of soup. You spend your days refining your theories. You claim to have developed a dynamic theory of gravity, a unified field theory that explains all the forces of the universe. You never publish it. You say the world is not ready for it, that it could be weaponized in terrible ways. Historians debate what this theory actually contained, or if it even existed in a complete form. Was it a revolutionary breakthrough in physics, predating Einstein's own search for a unified theory? Or was it another grand, unfinished idea in a mind overflowing with them? The notebooks you left behind are filled with cryptic equations and philosophical musings, but no complete, coherent theory has ever been pieced together from them. They are the fragments of a lost map. As war breaks out in Europe, you watch from your window on the 33rd floor. The city below is a glittering web of lights, all powered by your alternating current. It is your silent, unacknowledged monument. You gave them the modern world, and they gave you a hotel room and a pension. You hear the news of bombings and invasions on the radio, and you retreat into your work, convinced that the answers to all this madness are locked away in your equations. If only someone would have the vision to ask for the key. The final years, from 1940 until the beginning of 1943, are a slow, quiet fade. The world is consumed by the fire of World War II, a conflict being fought with technologies, radio, radar, advanced aircraft that are all distant descendants of your own pioneering work. Yet, you are almost completely absent from the great scientific efforts of the war, like the Manhattan Project. You are considered too old, too eccentric, too unreliable, a prophet ignored in his own time. You are a ghost at the feast of modern. Technology. Your physical world shrinks to the size of your hotel suite and the well-worn path to Bryant Park. The long, loping stride that once carried you tirelessly through the streets of New York shortens to a slow, careful shuffle. One late night in the fall of 1937, a few years prior, but setting the stage for your final decline, you left the hotel for one of your regular walks to the library. As you were crossing the street a few blocks away, you were struck by a taxi. The impact threw you to the ground, severely wrenching your back and breaking 3 of your ribs. True to your nature, you refused to see a doctor, a lifelong aversion. You made your own way back to your hotel room and collapsed into bed. This accident marked the beginning of your final, steep physical deterioration. You never fully recovered. The man who once commanded lightning was laid low by a simple city cab. After the accident, your walks become less frequent, and eventually, they stop altogether. You become a true hermit, confined to room 3327. The pigeons are your only regular. Visitors flying in through the window, you always keep a jar for them. The hotel staff grows accustomed to the routine. They leave your specially prepared vegetarian meals outside the door on a tray. They know not to knock, not to disturb the great man and his birds. Occasionally, a maid would be tasked with the delicate job of cleaning the room, a task that required navigating piles of notebooks and accommodating the feathered residents. It's a strange, domestic scene for a man who reshaped the electrical landscape of the planet. It's a well-known historical fact that you spent your last years as a recluse in the Hotel New Yorker. A more obscure and touch-in-detail concerns your relationship with your nephew, Sava Kozanovic. He was a Yugoslavian diplomat stationed in New York, and one of the few people you would still occasionally see. Sava worried deeply about your health and your isolation. He would visit, trying to persuade you to accept better medical care or to move to a more comfortable setting. You would politely but firmly refuse. During one visit, Sava found you looking exceptionally frail. He begged you to let him call a doctor. You looked at him with your piercing, deep-set eyes and said, "I have been in this world a long time. I have seen all that I can see. I will not have my life prolonged by a single day." You had decided it was your time, and you would meet the end on your own terms, just as you had lived your life. Your mind, however, remains incandescent. You work until the very end. Your notebooks from this period are filled with the same feverish energy as your earlier work, but the topics become even more abstract, more philosophical. You write about the nature of consciousness, the structure of the cosmos, the relationship between energy and matter. Historians debate the value of these last writings. Are they the final, profound insights of a transcendent genius, or the rambling, esoteric speculations of an old man whose mind was finally detaching from the physical world? Perhaps they are both. You were always a man who lived with one foot in the world of engineering and the other in the world of cosmic poetry. In your final days, it seems the poet finally overtook the engineer. You are alone, but not entirely forgotten. Scientists and engineers who understood the true scale of your contributions would sometimes write to you. You received the Edison Medal in 1916, a source of great and complicated pride for you, given your history with the man it was named for. You accepted the award, but used the speech to talk about your own visions, subtly asserting your own superiority, even in your decline. Your pride was a fortress. You are aware that the world you helped create is out there, buzzing and glowing beyond your hotel window. A world of light. But you are now in the shadows, a king in a tower of your own making, waiting for one final, gentle signal from the universe. The end comes quietly, not with a bang of lightning, but with a soft, final stillness. It is the first week of January, 1943. A cold, bleak winter has settled over New York City. The war rages overseas, a distant, violent noise. In your room, 3,327. The only sounds are the gentle cooing of the pigeons and the whisper of the wind against the window pane. You are 86 years old. Your body is failing, but your routine is sacrosanct. You have a "do not disturb" sign permanently hanging on your doorknob. The hotel staff respects it, as always. They have not seen you for a couple of days, but this is not unusual. You often work for long stretches without interruption. On the morning of January 8th, a chambermaid named Alice Monaghan, noticing that the sign has been undisturbed for too long, feels a sense of unease. She knows your habits, your precise rhythms. This silence feels different. Ignoring the sign, she uses her master key to gently push open the door. The room is dim, the curtains partially drawn. She sees your tall, thin frame lying on the bed. You are dressed not in pajamas, but in your formal clothes, as if prepared for an important meeting. You look peaceful, composed, but you are utterly still. Alice, who had grown fond of the strange, brilliant old man, knows immediately. She quietly backs out of the room and notifies the hotel manager. Nikola Tesla, the man who electrified the world, is dead. The official cause of death is coronary thrombosis, a blood clot in the heart. You died alone, sometime between the evening of January 5th and the morning of the 8th. The news of your death spreads quickly. It marks the end of an era. But your story is not quite over. In fact, a strange and frantic new chapter is about to begin. As soon as your death is confirmed, government agents from the FBI, or more specifically, a little-known office called the Alien Property Custodian, descend on the Hotel New Yorker. This is a common historical fact. Your hotel room was immediately sealed and all your belongings were impounded by the U.S. government. They were concerned, to the point of paranoia, about your death ray. They feared that your papers, which were rumored to contain the full plans for the Teleforce weapon, might fall into the hands of the enemy, the Nazis or the Soviets. The Cold War, in a way, began in your hotel room before the Second World War was even over. Agents swarmed the suite, bagging and boxing up everything, your entire life's work. Dozens of trunks and suitcases you had accumulated over the years, filled with notebooks, schematics, letters, and scientific papers. It is a treasure trove of genius, a paper trail of a mind that leaped from one century to the next. They are searching for one thing above all, the secrets to a weapon of unimaginable power. A weird, lesser-known detail of this event is who they brought in to examine your work. They needed an expert, someone who could understand your unique and complex brand of physics. They chose John G. Trump, an esteemed professor of engineering at MIT and a respected expert in high-voltage machinery. After spending 3 days poring over your papers, Professor Trump issued his official report. He concluded that your ideas were brilliant, but primarily speculative, philosophical, and promotional in nature. He found no evidence of a working design for a death ray or any other device that could be weaponized. He declared that your work contained nothing that would constitute a hazard in enemy hands. The name of that MIT professor? John G. Trump. He was the paternal uncle of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. A strange little knot in the fabric of history. Historians debate the true findings of John G. Trump's investigation. Was he being completely honest, or was he downplaying the significance of your work for national security reasons? Did the government quietly pocket any useful ideas and then publicly dismiss the rest as the ramblings of an old man? This lost papers theory has fueled conspiracy theories for decades. Believers are convinced that the government suppressed your most revolutionary inventions, free energy devices, anti-gravity technology, and yes, the death ray. They believe the world we live in could be a technological paradise, if only your work had been released. The truth is likely more mundane. Your papers were probably exactly what Trump said they were, a mix of brilliant insight, unfinished theories, and wild speculation. You were a man of ideas, not finished blueprints. The legend, however, is far more compelling than the reality. Even in death, you are a source of mystery, a scientific enigma wrapped in a government file stamped secret. With your papers and personal effects seized by the government, your physical remains are attended to by your family and the few who remained loyal to you. Your nephew, Sava Kozanovic, takes charge of the arrangements. He is heartbroken, but also fiercely protective of your legacy. He wants to ensure you are given a send-off worthy of your stature. A funeral service is held on January 12, 1943, at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Manhattan, one of the largest cathedrals in the world. It is a grand, solemn affair. Over 2,000 people attend. It is a remarkable outpouring of respect for a man who had lived his last years in such profound isolation. The attendees are a cross-section of the city you called home. There are dignitaries, including the mayor of New York, Fiorello LaGuardia. There are fellow scientists and engineers, men who understood the depth of your contributions, even if they disagreed with your methods. There are representatives from the Yugoslavian government in exile, honoring their most famous son. And there are ordinary New Yorkers, people who had read about you in the papers for decades, who saw you as a legendary, almost mythical figure of their city. They come to pay their respects to the quiet, eccentric genius who had lived among them. Several Nobel laureates send messages of condolence, acknowledging you as one of the great intellectual fathers of the electrical age. It is a moment of public recognition that you are so often denied in life. It's a bit like getting a standing ovation after you've already left the stage. After the public service, your body is taken to a crematorium. This, too, is in accordance with your wishes. You had always been unsentimental about the physical body, viewing it as a mere machine, a temporary vessel for the mind. Once the machine stopped working, it was of little consequence. Your ashes are placed in a simple container. It is a well-known historical fact that your funeral was a major event. A strange, less-known detail is the music played at the service. Alongside more traditional pieces, your nephew arranged for a recording of Tamo Daliko, There, Far Away, to be played. It is a mournful, patriotic Serbian song from the First World War, a song of longing for a lost homeland. It was said to be one of your favorites. As the haunting melody filled the vast cathedral, it was a final, poignant reminder of your origins. The small village in the mountains of Croatia, where the story of the boy who chased lightning began. Your ashes, however, do not immediately find a final resting place. For years, they are kept by your nephew Sava. Meanwhile, a long and complicated legal battle ensues over your estate. Your papers, All those boxes seized from the Hotel New Yorker remain in the custody of the U.S. government. Sava Kozanovic fights tirelessly to have them released, arguing that they are the rightful property of your family and a vital part of the cultural heritage of Yugoslavia. The American government, still wary of their contents despite John G. Trump's report, resists. The Cold War is intensifying, and Yugoslavia's new communist government under Tito makes them even more reluctant to hand over the papers of a man who claimed to have designed the ultimate weapon. Historians debate the motivations behind the U.S. government's long hold on your papers. Was it pure bureaucratic inertia and Cold War paranoia? Or was there a genuine ongoing assessment of your work for any military or intelligence value? The lost papers myth feeds on this ambiguity, suggesting a deliberate cover-up. Finally, in 1952, after nearly a decade of legal and diplomatic wrangling, the bulk of your estate, some 80 trunks of material, is released to your nephew and shipped to Belgrade. Your ashes go with them. You are, at last, going home. Your physical remains and the paper and ink remains of your mind are reunited, leaving America behind for the country of your birth. You came to America seeking a future of light and power, and in the end, you are returned to the old world as a national treasure, a relic of a future that never quite happened. Your final journey is a transatlantic one, a reversal of the voyage you made as an ambitious young man. In 1952, your ashes and the voluminous archive of your life's work arrive in Belgrade, the capital of what is now the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Here, you are not a mad scientist or a tragic failure. You are a national hero. The government, under Marshal Tito, sees you as a powerful symbol of Slavic genius and scientific prowess. They are determined to create a permanent shrine to your memory. In 1957, your ashes are interred in a museum established in your honor. It is not a somber, funereal place. It is a temple of science. The Nikola Tesla Museum is housed in a beautiful villa in the center of Belgrade. It becomes the official repository for your entire archive, your notebooks, your letters, your photographs, and thousands of pages of your technical drawings. For the first time, your life's work is gathered in one place, preserved and studied by scholars. The jewel of the collection is the final resting place of your remains. Your ashes are housed inside a gold-plated sphere, a perfect orb set upon a marble pedestal. It is designed to look like a miniature sun, a symbol of the energy you sought to harness. It is simple, elegant, and deeply fitting. The man who thought in terms of planetary forces is now contained within a small, perfect planet of his own. This golden sphere containing your ashes is a well-known image to anyone who has studied your life. A weird, or perhaps just intensely thoughtful, detail is the design of the pedestal it rests on. It is carved from a single block of stone with a specially designed indentation for the sphere, making it look like the orb is floating in a perfect smooth cradle. The entire display was designed by a prominent Serbian sculptor, Nebojša Mitric, who worked closely with your nephew to create a memorial that was both artistic and scientific. The museum becomes a place of pilgrimage for scientists, engineers, and admirers from around the world. It is divided into two parts. One part showcases your life and personal effects. Your hats, your gloves, your elegant suits, the tools from your New York laboratories. It tells the human story. The other part is a celebration of your science. It is an interactive space filled with working models of your inventions. Visitors can see a Tesla coil crackling with miniature lightning, watch your induction motor spin silently and powerfully, and witness the magic of your remote-controlled boat navigating a small pool. It is a place where your ideas are not just read about, but experienced. It brings your genius to life for new generations. You, who died penniless in a hotel room, are now the main attraction in a state-funded museum. It's the ultimate posthumous victory. Back in the United States, your name and legacy began a long, slow climb back from obscurity. For decades after your death, you were largely a footnote in the history of science, overshadowed by more commercially successful figures like Edison and Marconi. But in the second half of the 20th century, a counter-narrative begins to grow. You are rediscovered by a new generation of engineers and technologists, particularly in the burgeoning fields of computer science and electronics. They recognize your foundational contributions to wireless technology, radio, and robotics. Historians debate when this Tesla revival truly began. Some point to the 1960s counterculture, which was drawn to your anti-establishment utopian ideals. Others point to the rise of the Internet in the 1990s, a global communication system. That seemed to be a spiritual successor to your own world system. You became an icon for the digital age, a patron saint of hackers, makers, and visionary entrepreneurs. The ultimate geek hero, the man who was too far ahead of his time, finally found his time had caught up with him. Your name starts appearing on t-shirts, in video games, and as the inspiration for a certain electric car company that would go on to change the automotive world. The brand that had been associated with failure was now a symbol of cutting-edge innovation. The resurrection of your name in popular culture is a strange and wonderful phenomenon. You, the man who died alone and in debt, become a 21st century icon. The name Tesla is now synonymous with the future, with clean energy, with visionary thinking. The electric car company founded in 2003, which chose your name to honor your work with SC Motors, plays no small part in this. Suddenly, your name is on highways all over the world, a silent, powerful testament to the engine you invented over a century ago. It's a commercial success story that you yourself could never achieve. A validation of your technology on a scale you could only have dreamed of. You wanted to give the world free energy. It settled for giving you a really cool luxury car brand. It's not the utopia you envisioned, but it's not a bad legacy either. Your image becomes a staple of internet culture. You are hailed as the man who invented the 20th century. Memes celebrate you as a misunderstood genius, unfairly thwarted by the greedy and short-sighted Thomas Edison. This online rivalry between Team Tesla and Team Edison simplifies a complex historical relationship into a battle of good versus evil, nerd versus bully. It is, of course, a gross oversimplification. Edison was a brilliant inventor and a master of industrial innovation in his own right. But the narrative is powerful. You become the patron saint of the underdog, the brilliant outcast who was right all along. It's a compelling story because, in many ways, it's true. This renewed fame leads to a fresh look at your life and work. New biographies are written. Documentaries are produced. Your life story becomes a source of fascination. The story of Wardenclyffe, once a symbol of your greatest failure, is retold as a tragic tale of a future that was stolen from us. In 2013, a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, organized by the webcomic artist Matthew Inman, creator of The Oatmeal, raises over $1.3 million to purchase your old property at Wardenclyffe and turn it into a museum. It is a remarkable moment. Over 33,000 people from around the world chip in, buying back the land where your dream died, determined to turn it into a place of education and inspiration. The Internet, a technology you conceptually foreshadowed with your world system, is used to reclaim your legacy. It's a beautiful, circular piece of historical poetry. The historical fact is that this crowdfunding campaign was a massive success, leading to the establishment of the Tesla Science Center at Wardenclyffe. A quirky, lesser-known detail is that, as part of the fundraising, New York State agreed to match the funds raised if the campaign hit a certain target, effectively doubling the money available to purchase and preserve the site. This public-private partnership, fueled by internet enthusiasm, is what finally secured the land. The place where your tower was dynamited as a potential threat is now a designated historic site, destined to celebrate your vision. Historians debate how you would have felt about this modern fame. Would you have been gratified by the recognition? Or would you have been horrified by the commercialization of your name and the simplification of your science? You were a man of immense pride, but also of deep seriousness. You might have appreciated the electric cars, but you probably would have been appalled by the memes. You might have loved the idea of a science center at Wardenclyffe, but you would have insisted that every exhibit be perfectly, flawlessly, scientifically accurate down to the last decimal point. One thing is certain, you would have been fascinated by the internet. The instantaneous global flow of information would have seemed like a validation of your core belief in a connected world. You might have seen it as a primitive, digital version of the global consciousness you hope to awaken. With your own technology, you are no longer a man, but a powerful idea, an idea that continues to resonate, to oscillate, to power the dreams of new generations of inventors, thinkers, and dreamers. The current of your influence, it turns out, was just getting started. As we settle here in the final moments of our story, we find your legacy is a complex and shimmering thing, much like the strange lights you saw in your Colorado experiments. You are not a simple figure to be filed away in a history book. You are a paradox. A man who died in perceived failure, yet whose ideas now define much of our modern world. A recluse who became a global icon. A scientific rationalist who spoke the language of mysticism and saw the future in the eyes of a pigeon. Your most tangible legacy is, of course, the alternating current system. Every time a light switches on in a home, every time a device is plugged into a wall, your victory in the war of the currents is quietly affirmed. It is the invisible infrastructure of modern civilization, the planetary circulatory system you envisioned, even if it is constrained by wires and meters. The AC motor you perfected powers everything from household appliances to massive industrial machinery. It is so ubiquitous, so fundamental, that it's as easy to overlook as the air we breathe. And yet, it is the hum of your genius, a constant, low-frequency reminder of the world you built. But your influence goes far beyond the power grid. Your pioneering work in radio predated Marconi and the Supreme Court of the United States. In a ruling made just a few months after your death in 1943, posthumously recognized your key patents, effectively naming you the true father of radio. It was a legal victory you never lived to see. Your experiments with robotics, remote control, and wireless data transmission laid the conceptual groundwork for everything from television, remotes to Wi-Fi to the drones that now fill our skies. You weren't just inventing devices. You were inventing entire categories of technology. You were sketching the outlines of the 21st century while living in the 19th. This is a well-established historical fact. A final, strange little detail that encapsulates your forward-thinking nature is your prediction of something very much like the modern smartphone. In a 1926 interview, you described a future where a man could carry a simple device in his vest pocket that would allow him to see and hear events, like the inauguration of a president, as they happened, and to transmit messages instantly across the globe. You were describing the internet and live streaming, nearly a century before it became a reality. Historians will forever debate the what-ifs of your life. What if J.P. Morgan had not pulled his funding for Wardenclyffe? What if your tower had been completed? Would we be living in a world of free wireless energy? Would society have developed along a completely different, perhaps more utopian path? We can never know. Perhaps the technology was not as viable as you believed. Perhaps the societal and economic challenges of implementing such a system were simply too vast. But the dream itself, the sheer audacity of it, remains one of the most compelling and romantic what-ifs in the history of technology. It is the ghost of a better future, a future that still haunts the imagination. You are more than just an inventor. You are a story, a myth, a powerful narrative about the struggle of visionary genius against the forces of commerce and convention. You are a reminder that the future is not built by committee, but dreamed up in the minds of singular, often difficult, individuals. You are the patron saint of anyone who has ever had a brilliant idea that the world was not yet ready to hear. Your life was a grand, beautiful, and ultimately tragic experiment, but the final results are still coming in. The signal you sent out from your strange towers, and your even stranger mind is still traveling through the world, bouncing off the ionosphere of our collective imagination, and still being received by those who are tuned to the right frequency. The quiet hum you heard in your head as a boy is now the sound of the entire world. You just had to wait for everyone else to learn how to listen dot, and so your journey comes to a soft and quiet close. The last of the calculations are finished. The final notebook filled with the elegant, looping script of a mind that saw the universe not as a collection of objects, but as a single magnificent song. The lights of the city you helped to build glitter far below your window on the 33rd floor, a sea of captured stars, each one a tiny echo of your colossal dream. The hum of the city is a lullaby now, a gentle murmur of alternating currents, flowing through the veins of the world, a rhythm you set in motion so very long ago. The memory of the white pigeon, a flash of impossible light against the darkness, brings not sadness, but a sense of profound cosmic peace. Your work is done. The last of the unpaid bills and broken promises fade into insignificance, like ripples smoothing out on a vast, dark lake. All that remains is the silence, a deep and resonant stillness that is not empty, but full of unheard melodies. Let the image of that brilliant, solitary mind fade into the soft static of the coming sleep. Let the hum of the world you made be. The last sound you hear, a gentle current to carry you into your well-earned rest. There are no more towers to build, no more patents to file, no more battles to fight. There is only this quiet, this stillness, this final, peaceful resonance.